You ever wake up feeling like something in the air just ain't right? Like the day looked calm, but your gut telling you trouble already clocked in? That was my morning. Sun barely creeping over the rooftops, street quiet, birds chirping, sprinklers ticking, everything peaceful, too peaceful. My Humvee sitting out front, same spot it always been. Big, heavy desert tan, looking like it could roll through a storm without blinking. To most folks, it was just a loud truck. To me, it was years of sacrifice welded into steel. I had just gotten home from a long stretch of work, my body tired, my head heavy. All I wanted was rest. I poured coffee, sat down, finally felt my shoulders drop. Then my phone buzzed, once, then again. A message popped up asking if I was home. I typed back, "Yeah, what's up?" Dots blinking, then stopped. Then came the words that made my chest sink. "Bro, somebody's scratching your truck." I didn't even think. I didn't grab shoes, didn't grab keys. I bolted outside, heart slamming like it knew something bad was waiting. And there she was, standing right beside my Humvee, calm as daylight, keys clenched tight, dragging slow and deliberate across the side panel. That sound, man, it wasn't just metal on paint, it was disrespect scraping through the air. I yelled, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" She didn't jump, didn't flinch, didn't even look surprised. She turned slow, eyes cold like she'd been waiting for me, and said, "Maybe next time you'll follow the HOA rules." I told her, "Stop now." She smirked, said, "Call the cops," like she was daring me. She kept scratching, deeper, harder, carving lines like she's signing her name on something permanent. Neighbors started peeking through blinds, doors opening, phones coming out. She wanted an audience. She wanted to show power. She started talking about property values, about how vehicles like mine don't belong here, how people like me bring the wrong image. I felt heat rise in my chest, but I kept my voice steady, told her this was public parking. She laughed, said the HOA decides what belongs here. That word "decide" stuck with me because she believed it, fully believed she had authority to punish, to damage, to judge. When the police pulled up, she flipped the switch instantly, voice shaking, tears ready, saying I threatened her, saying she was enforcing rules. Officer looked at the scratches, looked at the keys still in her hand, asked her straight up why she touched my vehicle. She said because someone had to. He asked if she had permission. She said she didn't need it. I watched his expression change just slightly. He asked whose vehicle it was. I told him it was mine. She scoffed, said probably some fake military toy. The officer asked me what I do for work. Before I could answer, she cut in, mocking me, laughing. He raised a hand, told her to step back. I told him calmly the Humvee was part of a federally monitored contract unit. His eyes lifted. He asked me to repeat it. I did. Her smile vanished, color draining from her face like someone pulled a plug. The officer stepped away, made a call, voice low, serious. When he came back, the whole energy changed. Neighbors quiet, streets silent. Even the wind felt like it paused. He told her to place the keys on the hood of his cruiser. She laughed, nervous, said this was ridiculous. He said, "Ma'am, this is no longer an HOA matter." She started backing up, saying she didn't know, saying it was just a truck. But ignorance don't erase action, and damage don't disappear just because regret shows up late. As more police lights hit the street, reflecting off those deep, fresh scratches, I realized something. This wasn't about a truck anymore. This was about someone who thought power lived in a clipboard and was about to learn what real authority actually looks like.
The second cruiser rolled in slow, tires crunching against the curb, lights washing over the houses like judgment passing through the block. And I could see it in her face, the moment it finally hit her. This wasn't a warning. This wasn't a scare tactic. This wasn't something she could talk her way out of. She started pacing back and forth, hands trembling, still clutching that clipboard like it was a shield. She kept saying she was just doing her job, just protecting the neighborhood, like repeating it enough times would make it true. The officer asked her again to set the keys down, this time his voice firmer, colder. She hesitated for half a second, then obeyed, metal clinking softly against the hood, sounding louder than it should have. Neighbors whispered behind me, some shaking their heads, others finally finding courage to speak. One man said she threatened him last year over his work van. A woman said she fined her for flower colors. Another neighbor said she always acted like she owned the street. Every sentence stacked heavier than the last, and you could feel her authority cracking right there in real time. The officer asked if my vehicle had cameras. I nodded, pulled out my phone, opened the app, and the footage came up clear as day. Her walking up, looking around, then dragging the keys slow, intentional, almost proud. The officer watched without blinking, then turned the screen toward her. She gasped, like the air left her lungs, saying that's not how it looked, saying the angle made it seem worse. But truth don't bend for excuses. Her voice got higher, frantic. She started crying, promising to pay, promising to apologize, promising anything just to rewind time. But time doesn't rewind, especially when metal meets intent. The officer stepped aside, took another call, nodded once, then came back. Different posture, different weight in his walk. He told her the vehicle was federally registered, and damage to it elevated the charges. She dropped to her knees right there on the pavement, sobbing, saying she didn't know, she was sorry, she never meant it like that. But knowing or not didn't change what was done. When the cuffs clicked around her wrists, the whole street went silent. Not a cheer, not a clap, just realization. Watching someone who lived on control finally lose it. She screamed about lawyers, about suing everyone, but the words fell flat, carried away by the flashing lights as she was guided into the cruiser. I looked at my Humvee, the deep scratches cutting across it like scars, and I realized something strange. I wasn't angry anymore. I felt calm, because this wasn't revenge, this was consequence. And for the first time since moving into that neighborhood, power didn't belong to the loudest voice, it belonged to the truth.
The night after everything went down, I couldn't sleep at all. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that scraping sound again, metal crying under pressure, replaying in my head over and over. The street outside was quiet, but my mind wasn't. I kept thinking about how fast things escalated, how a normal, peaceful morning turned into police lights and handcuffs, all because someone thought a title on a clipboard gave them ownership over other people's lives. The next morning, I stepped outside and the air felt different. Neighbors waved, some came over quietly saying they were sorry, saying they had wanted to speak up before but were scared of fines, letters, threats. It hit me then. This wasn't just about my Humvee. This had been happening for years under the surface. Fear disguised as community rules, control hidden behind friendly newsletters. Days later, detectives came by to take a full statement. They measured the damage, photographed every angle, ran fingerprints on the panels even though it was obvious who did it. They said procedure mattered because of the registration level of the vehicle. That word again, procedure, something she never followed when she decided rules only applied to others. I learned the repair estimate alone crossed into serious territory, numbers I didn't even want to say out loud. And suddenly, the charge wasn't just vandalism anymore. It became a felony criminal mischief with enhancements. And when that news spread through the neighborhood, people started talking openly. Stories poured out. Threats, late-night notes, warning letters, fines that were never real. One couple admitted they paid thousands over the years just to avoid conflict. And hearing that made my stomach twist, because silence had been feeding the monster. The HOA board called an emergency meeting, everyone invited. Attendants packed the room, people standing along walls, emotions spilling over, voices shaking with anger and relief at the same time. The president tried to calm things down, said they would handle it internally, but that line didn't work anymore. Not after police, not after charges, not after the truth finally showed its face. Residents demanded records, budgets, authority, and when those documents came out, everything collapsed fast. Missing paperwork, fake fines, rules never filed legally. The HOA wasn't just abusive, it wasn't even legitimate. The board dissolved that night, members resigning one by one, faces pale, realizing the power they pretended to have was never real. Weeks passed and the street grew peaceful again. Kids rode bikes without fear of complaints, cars parked freely, laughter returned like it had been gone for years.
My Humvee eventually came back repaired, flawless, looking brand new, but the scars still lived in memory. Sometimes I catch myself staring at it, not seeing metal, but the lesson burned into that day. That confidence without accountability becomes cruelty, and real strength doesn't scream, it simply stands firm. Because when someone thinks they own the neighborhood, they forget one thing. Power borrowed eventually gets reclaimed, and when it does, it doesn't ask permission, it just arrives right on time.